I'm feeling 22.
Is that
What's up?
Who sings that?
What do you mean who sings
That's
that?
T Swift.
Toxic Tank.
But
Not a fan.
but it's okay, you know.
What era are you with her?
Well, I love the Red album.
Okay.
Like her old music, like I wasn't too into it because it was like CDs back then and I didn't have the CDs.
Okay.
But then I got the Red CD and then I would like play that over and over.
For some of our Gen Z audience, can you explain what a CD is? I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
Paper Room.
Yep.
We're in episode 22
Woo!
of Paper Room. So
Keep
it's
getting
been
gooder.
a good time. For anybody that is listening for the first time or maybe the second time, we haven't introed, I guess, like what we do. Like
Yeah, it
why
actually has been a
we
minute.
do what we
Yeah.
do in a minute. So the Paper Room is all about helping young adults navigate their life through all the decisions they have to make, but as they're following Jesus.
Amen.
Because life is hard enough on its own, but with the help of Christ, you know, life is easier. It's
Come
not
on.
the easiest. Life is still very hard, but with
It's
Christ,
better
I mean,
with Jesus.
it's better. Yeah. So that's the Paper Room.
Wrote a song about it, like the head go. I'm not gonna sing the song, but we did write a song about it.
Who did?
We did. I did.
Oh, really?
Me and Gabe.
Oh. Maybe we can put it like, drop it
We've
on
been singing it at Young Adults.
the link in bio.
That's
We'll put
that's
it.
the song.
Yeah, I love it. I can't wait
It's a good song.
until it gets released.
Me either.
Are you ready
Yeah.
for what I want to do?
Okay, so wait.
Okay, now.
Who are you? This is
Oh,
Pastor
sorry.
Danny,
What's
Pastor
up?
Nick.
Yes.
I'm Isha. We're here. This is a Paper Room crew. Sometimes we have a guest come on. So if you haven't yet, go back and listen to our episodes. We have I think maybe 2-3 guests that we've done before, but this is a crew.
I love this crew.
Me too.
And one thing I want to do a little bit more is for our audience to get to know us a little bit better.
Okay.
Right. So we always try to do a little bit of hey, sometimes we share our passions, our calling, our ministry experience.
Yeah.
But they may not know like what we like, just on a regular, normal basis. Right. So another thing we've thought about is throwing out different segments. So I would hope and pray, I don't pray for sure, that this segment would be like a normal rhythm of Paper Room. Let me say this. I did steal this from TikTok, so it's not an original idea.
Thief.
But I like it, so it's gonna be fun. Hopefully, we are going to rank items blindly. By we, I mean y'all too. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm gonna give you a topic, okay, and then I'm gonna give you something specific within that topic. For example, cereal, and then I'm gonna throw out different cereals. Cereal
Okay.
options. You have to rank them of what you think is best without knowing what's going to come next, 1 through 5.
Oh, okay.
So if I say cereal and I'm like, hey,
Okay.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, you have to think 1 through 5. Where's that going to go in your order without
But I
knowing
don't even know what's coming
up next.
That
So
sounds like life.
it may mess you up a little bit.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you guys ready? So
Yeah,
we're
I'm ready.
ranking blindly these
Well, don't
items.
say Cinnamon Toast Crunch first.
No, I'm not going to do
because that's
cereal. That
But
was
it's
just an
it's
example.
1 through 5?
1 through 5.
Okay.
Right. So you have to think
Five
about
being the best or 5 being the worst?
No, your one's the best. What's your number one thing?
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, so ranking these things blindly, and here's what we're gonna do for the first time, right? Okay, we're gonna do this multiple times.
Okay.
And then one day y'all gonna do it, or one of you will host it. That way I can be a part of it.
Okay.
I can't do it because I know
Just gonna tell me what to do with
I
my
know what's
segment.
coming next. Right.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So we're ranking fast food restaurants blindly.
Okay.
All right. So ranking fast food restaurants blindly. You will give your thought on 1 through 5 where
Okay.
you're gonna put these restaurants, and so we'll
I
start.
don't know why I'm trying to close my eyes.
Well,
Gotta
you're like, I'm
envision
gonna pray
this.
about this.
Think about the logos.
it don't matter.
So ranking these fast food restaurants blindly. Here we go. We'll start off with the most probably famous one, known for its golden arches.
Okay.
McDonald's. Where are you putting it? 1 through 5.
Okay. 4.
4. Okay.
3.
Woo. Right in the middle. So you kind of like it.
I'm safe.
You're safe. That's
Yeah.
true. All right. So you
It's
got it at
pretty
4. You got it at
good.
3. So McDonald's. We will stick within the same category, right? The same kind of style of food. Let's go Burger King.
Bruh.
Whopper,
11.
Whopper, Junior, Whopper.
-10.
Yeah, 11. It ain't even more mine.
So 5s.
5.
Is what I'm saying. So you got
yes.
McDonald's at 4.
Yeah.
Burger King at 5. You have McDonald's at 3.
3.
Burger King at 5.
Yes.
Let's go with this next one. This one, I'll just say this. I've loved the promotion of this next fast food restaurant.
I know what you're about to say.
It's like young adults having a good time every time they're eating this food. Let's go with Taco Bell. Where's Taco Bell for you guys?
Okay.
1 through 5.
That's a solid 4.
Okay. So you got McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King. So you're hoping the next 2 are like really good. Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you say something crazy.
2.
2. Okay. So you have,
Just because I order the same thing every time I go.
what do you
Okay,
get?
nothing wrong with it.
The chicken quesadilla.
Oh, that goes hard.
Bussin'.
You get, so you're at Taco Bell 2, you're at Burger King 5, and McDonald's 4?
4.
Okay, cool. So you got 1 and 3
So
left.
she got some space.
You got 1 and 2 left, all right?
I got 1 and 2 left.
All right, this next one will determine how much you love the state you live in.
Okay.
We're going Whataburger.
Okay. That beats Taco Bell, so 1.
1.
It beats
Okay,
Taco Bell.
so Whataburger's your top.
That got to be 2. Because it's a little. Whataburger is above McDonald's
Okay.
because of the burger. Like, I love McDonald's burgers, but, you know,
No.
Whataburger has some great burgers. And then their breakfast slaps.
Yeah,
Multiple
it
things on the
does.
menu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if they had the steak bagel here in Texas,
What is a steak bagel?
where they sell it at McDonald's, if they had that and I was able
I
to
didn't
get
know
that
that.
regularly, then McDonald's might win in the breakfast because that steak bagel is good. Whenever you at a McDonald's where you can get a steak bagel, get it.
I've never even heard of that.
Oh,
That's
it's delicious.
interesting. Okay, cool. Funny thing, our main paper room producer, Mr. Gabe Alvarado, thinks that Burger King is better than Whataburger.
That's wild.
So if you are listening, just pray for your boy. Pray for your boy Gabe.
That's wild.
Makes no
Well,
sense.
He's gonna be on the show soon.
Amen. We're believing that. All right. So you have Whataburger 1, you have Taco Bell 2, you're
Yeah.
missing 3. So
Yeah.
you're this one's kind of like in the middle for you. And then you have was it McDonald's then Burger King, right? You have Whataburger 1.
No.
Oh,
2.
2. Oh, so you're hoping this next one is like your,
I'm hoping it's good.
all right, we'll see. And then you have what was the next one? McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King last.
Yeah.
All right, this next one, it might be everyone's favorite. We'll see. I think maybe you got a little lucky with it, but we're gonna go with how Christian you are, Chick-fil-A, and it is your 2 spot.
It's got to take number 3. That's the only
you
one I
can't
have
switch
left.
them.
No, that's the
Oh.
only one I have left.
Oh, I thought you had
Because
2
I
left.
put Taco Bell at 2.
Facts.
So it's got to go there.
Are you
'cause
okay
it's
with
only
that?
one left.
Do you like Whataburger and Taco Bell more than Chick-fil-A?
I think I would prefer Chick-fil-A over Whataburger.
You should have
So-
waited. You had no idea, honestly.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A ended up where for you?
It fell right where the Lord wanted it to fall.
Right at number 1.
Right at number 1.
Are you satisfied with your list?
Yeah, I'm cool with that because I love Chick-fil-A. I can get the same thing several different ways. They ice cream machine is always on.
That's so true.
They have the best. Their sweet tea is always on point. I've never had a bad sweet tea at Chick-fil-A. I've had a bad sweet tea at McDonald's. Had a bad sweet tea at Whataburger. Had a bad.
Call 'em out.
So yeah. So Chick-fil-A. And then another thing is to be closed on Sunday and
Stick
still
to
be
it.
fighting with the. I mean, they fighting with the heavyweights and they lose a whole day.
Yeah.
God's favors on that place.
That's wild. I remember when Chick-fil-A opened up in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium where the Atlanta Falcons play.
And they were closed. on Sunday.
NFL play football on Sundays. So I don't know if
They could make a gazillion dollars on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing that makes me like Chick-fil-A is I always crave it when I can't have it
On Sundays.
Yeah.
on Sundays. Like
Yeah.
my
So then-
stomach
Well, they
start
make you miss
growling.
it.
They
just
make
like
you miss
BTYA.
it. So then like Monday.
Just like
every other
BTYA.
Tuesday.
I love it.
Oh, I
We
love
make
that.
you miss it.
We'll make you miss it. Well, that was ranking foods
was
blindly.
fun.
So
That was very.
we'll do
I
that
was
again.
like
Fun.
low key
That
sweating.
was yeah.
Don't be
I
sweating,
know.
bro. You
I
got.
thought you were gonna say Arby's
That was
last
a
or
little-
something. I was gonna be like,
I should have threw it up, man. I should have messed it up.
I've never had Arby's, but
Oh,
you know that Burger King is so bad they don't even have an ice cream machine.
wow.
They just give you a little McFlurry from the freezer.
at Gabe Alvarado.
wow.
Just kidding.
I'm calling it.
All right, let's get into today's
Yeah,
topic. Run
so
with
before we get into the meat of today's topic and
Meat.
before I announce, I mean, obviously y'all are going to see the title before you click on the episode, but
it. That's true.
now that, you know, Paper Room is 22, I'm going to start with this question. When did you feel like an adult?
Woo wee.
Because, I mean, once you're 18, technically an adult, but when did you start feeling like you were really an adult?
I would say for me when I had to start like paying my own bills, because then it's like, okay, this is coming out of my pocket. So I had to find a job, had to start making money. But I mean, luckily for me, my parents had like this unwritten rule where they wanted to get our first car for us. So I
Oh,
was
that's
like,
lovely.
I was like
okay.
mad blessed, right?
Yeah.
And so like I remember like, well, I say first car, but like they wanted to buy us a car at some point. And so I was like driving like my brother's old car or something like that. It was like almost broken down. I was living at Zephyr at the time, working there full time. And then my parents rolled up and like, hey, like you're at camp, right? I was like, yeah. And I said, all right, cool, we got a surprise for you. And they rolled up in a new car, and I was like,
Ooh, like the price is right. A new
nice,
car.
this is nice. And then they're like, we're gonna pay this off for you. You know, congratulations, you have a job, you're going to school. And like that was like a way that they always wanted to bless us.
I like that.
Which I was like, man, this is cool. Jaden, if you're listening, I don't know if we're gonna do that for you, bro.
Oh, don't do that to the man.
Oh, baby.
But then after a while, like, you know, okay, well, they paid it, but you still gotta pay insurance, right? And so then I started having to do that. Then that car gets old, I gotta get a different one. They're like, we're not paying that second one, right? And so I just started to feel like all these bills started to pile up. Started paying my own phone bill, car insurance. When that first car that I got started running down, I had to get a new one, so then had to pay that. So I just felt like when I started having to pay for my own things, not just like food and stuff and going out, but
Right.
like necessities
Yeah.
of payments, that really felt, you know, scary, almost like an adult. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I was probably like, I don't know,
Man,
21,
when did
22.
I feel like an adult? Well, one, I felt like an adult when I wasn't even an adult. We had my twin sister and I, we had our summer job money, and we had summer jobs and everything, and we went and got our own phone line. That was fun because, you know, we went to T-Mobile and signed the contract. I didn't even know you could do that.
I remember doing that pretty
You
young
remember
too.
that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kinda
I
weird.
felt like accomplished.
Yeah.
Like, this is my phone, this is my line. And mom was still like, nope. You know, like, you know, we still have restrictions. But that's one where I felt like an adult. Like, man, I'm making my money and I'm paying my phone bill. And then one time, my wife and I, this is when we first got married, like, it wasn't because we didn't have the money. We just, like, our water got cut off. Not because we didn't have the money, but we, like,
You forgot to just pay it.
we just forgot to pay it.
That's happened to us. So
And
many
I'm
times,
like,
bro.
man, why the water ain't, like, who done came and stole the water? Like, you know, and then it's like, oh, that's what happens when you don't pay your
We
bill.
gotta do
Which
it.
adulting life hack. Anytime now that you can have anything on auto pay, just
Do
put
it.
it on auto pay,
Yeah.
man. Like that way you don't even have to think about it. That's
Yeah.
happened to us too, where like at our apartment where I just forgot to pay our electricity bill.
Yeah, that's a big one.
I know.
She like,
Summer's hanging out at home,
See-
and she's like, "Hey, there must have been an accident outside or something." 'cause The
I'm
power,
the accident.
the power just went out, and I was like, "My bad, I didn't even pay the bill."
Oh my gosh.
And then when that happens, in case you don't know this, adulting like
Extra.
life hack is you got to pay a mad fee to just you don't just pay the bill, you got to pay extra because you messed up.
ooh,
Yeah.
that'll preach too,
Mm.
because it costs a little more sometimes to reconnect.
Consequences.
Oof.
Yeah. For
We'll
me,
do that
I
later.
didn't really feel like an adult until I got engaged, because then it was a reality. I grew up living at my parents' house like for 23 years. So, and my parents were always extremely supportive, super loving and taking care of us. We never had like bazillions of dollars, right? But we were always taken care of. And my parents also care like a lot. And they're not, I wouldn't say that they're overprotective in like a
They not helicopter parents.
like right like strict. They were not strict. It was like they worry so much. They're very protective of what they love, and they loved us so much. So I think that protection made me feel at times like, but I'm not a kid anymore, you know, like it took me a long time to get driving, and even though I had a job, like I really didn't.
What do you mean by long time? Like, can you be specific?
Sure.
Be free.
I guess. Well, so for context, my mom works at home. So there was never in high school a need for me to get a car and get driving to take myself to school. She would just take
'Cause
me.
she's
She
always
would take me
available.
at 6 a.m. to my cross country practices. Like she's a runner too, so she didn't mind.
Yeah.
So there was not like a need for me to take my sister to school, stuff like that. So I didn't even have a desire really to get out on my own and like drive. So I didn't get my license until I was 20.
Okay.
It's kind of late.
20?
Okay.
Yeah. Ben got his license when he was like 16.
Average age was like 16.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
So, I mean, all of that factors into me feeling like I'm still being very attached to my parents. But when I got engaged, it was a shock to them because, you know, it was like, boom, all of a sudden I'm going to be out of the house.
Wow.
And it's like, oh, you know, my child's leaving, you know.
You're like, dang it, Ben, who is
this guy?
You know, and so then the reality set in for me too. As I was buying little furniture pieces and stuff we would have for the apartment and just like planning for the wedding, like I started to finally feel like, okay, my life is starting, you know, like, and I'm not going to be super far away from my parents. So it wasn't like a harsh transition, but I really felt like, okay, finally, you know, like I get to have my own life.
And that's why college is kind of formative.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
I didn't go away for college.
I went away for college. It was about 4 hours away in North Carolina. I'm from DC. But it was formative, you know, needing to, even though I stayed on campus, you know, needing to go grocery shopping, needing to, you know, make sure I had enough money to, you know, do laundry. And my mom, she would send us care packages and all of that. But that's a very formative period. Like, don't just waste your college years. Like, just whatever, you know.
Yeah.
That's
it was
good.
a long time before I even went grocery shopping. But everybody's journey is different when it comes to becoming an adult. Everybody's background and family is different, especially in our culture here in the Valley. Every family looks different, and parenting looks different, and that's okay. I think a lot of young adults might feel like whatever process they're in adulting and being an individual and being independent, if it looks different from somebody else, it's kind of like, oh, I might be doing something wrong, or it's not fair that, you know, I grew up this way or whatever. But it's all a part of the journey, and we each struggle. Like, there's no part of it that's like, oh, well, I had it all super easy. I mean, of course, people have different luxuries, but I just think that everybody struggles with something. And the older you get, the more struggles you're going to face, the harder life gets. And so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the struggle of adulting. Ooh. The struggle is real. And that's a very umbrella term because there's so much that goes into the life of an adult. From, you know, there's like the 18 to 21 type of struggles, and then there's like, okay, like 22 to 27 type of struggles, and then the 30-year-old struggles. Like, there's just a lot of different things that we can talk about, but I do want to
say 30-year-old like it's really old, so just be careful.
No. No. A lot of my friends are 30.
Amen.
They are. I know 30-year-olds. So I do want to talk about some of these struggles so that anybody listening, whether or not you relate to any of these, because you might be in a different season, you might be struggling with completely different things, this could still be helpful to you for the friends you have, for if you're not a young adult, like you could help young adults by listening to this. So we'll start with home life and parents, since I kind of shared, you know, my background. Not everybody listening is still living at home, but I think a good majority of young adults are going to college while living at home, or out of college and still living at home, while working, saving up money to move out. But for those young adults that are at home, how can a young adult maybe that's wanting to be a little bit more independent, how can they create some healthy boundaries with their parents to foster a more independent lifestyle while living at home?
I did live at home for a little while before figuring out what God had for my life, and then felt called to ministry, moved to Zephyr, that whole thing, which that kind of felt a little bit like adulting. But I did live with my parents like right after high school. I started, you know, college at UTPA at the time. Shows my age, amen.
Go Bronx.
But like one of the things that my parents always kind of instilled in me that I would just kind of, I know that a lot of young adults or college students like they want that independence, so they want to get out, so they want to go find an apartment, they want to do all that, which is totally cool. Like if that's what you want to do, understand what that's going to have to come with getting a job and roommates and all that stuff. But my parents were always kind of like, why are you going to spend money? Like you have a place here, you have food here, you have your bed here. So like they were cool if I wanted to choose to go like somewhere else. Like there was a season where I wanted to go to college somewhere else. And they were like, yeah, do that if you want to do it. Like, if you feel that's what you want to do. But they're also real big on like just save money, and which I did not save money. I still spent it.
That's the part, right?
Yeah.
But I still lived there for a little bit. And so, yeah, like I think, and just my experience, just everybody's different. And obviously I think it's also different for a guy and a girl.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were just really lax. Like, they didn't really have a whole lot of rules for me.
You the baby too, right?
I was a baby too. Yeah. So they had done it twice already. The only rule my dad had for me was if I was out, I better answer my phone. Like that. And that was like, if I didn't answer my phone, then it was, I got in trouble. So like, he didn't care. I can be out to 2 or 3 in the morning. It didn't matter. But if I'm out, or unless like I tell him, hey, I'm staying at my friend's house, whatever. So they're pretty relaxed with stuff. But I think part of it too was communication. Like, I would tell them, hey, I'm going to this place. Hey, I'm going to this friend's house. I'm going to hang out here, whatever.
You were very respectful of your parents.
100%.
So that changed the game too.
Yeah. And so I one of my big advices with how do you create that space of independence is communicate it. Like, I don't know how much young adults have actually told their parents, like, I would love to have this kind of space. I think a lot of times what happens with issues is a lack of communication. Like, we assume that they know that, but maybe they don't know that. And parents are always going to be protective, right? They're always your mom, they're always your dad. And so they're always going to hug on you and love on you, right? And so how are you communicating to them that you want to kind of feel a little bit this way? But then also, you're still in their house. So if you communicate that and they give you an answer that you don't really like, you still honor them because they're still paying mortgage and food in the fridge and all that stuff. So
that's where I'm at. That's where I am. I knew. I don't know how I knew. Just intuitively, I don't know. I just knew when I turned 18 and I went to college, I would not go back home. I don't know why I knew that.
You felt like that was it.
I felt like that was it. I felt like, as a man, this is like, you need to start putting some things in place. So I never anticipated moving back to back with my mom after college or anything. I didn't know what I would do, but I didn't think that was an option for me. And my mom loves me. I'm the only boy. Like, literally, I honestly believe I could have probably stayed with my mom forever. I would have had to get a job and everything. But, my mom lives with me now. And I love saying that because I don't live with her. She lives with me. Like, she lives with our family. And it's a great, great, great thing. But I would say honor your parents. You can't expect your parents to honor your boundaries if you're not honoring them.
Yeah, that's good.
And so, just like Danny said, your parents are your parents. They're going to want the best for you. They're going to love you, my wife and I, we raised my niece, and so sometimes when she was like, when you're out of the house, just think of the weight of worry in this day and time, in this world. Like, you out of the house and your parents and they don't know, you know what I mean? So you can't just expect to just come and go as you please without honor or communication. That is crazy. Another thing I would say is, sometimes because you're at home and you're living with your parents, if we're not careful, a sense of entitlement can rise up. And I think that it is important to know that when you are an adult, even though your parents are your parents, they are not entitled. You are not entitled to anything. Like you're entitled to contribute.
Yes.
And I'm not saying your parents need to take all your money or whatever the case may be, but what I am saying is, if you staying at home, figure out something to do, contribute. Because, and I used to tell one of my loved ones this, like, nowhere else where you go and live on your own will you be able to stay there without contributing.
Exactly.
Even when you go live on your own, your landlord gonna want you to contribute that rent every month.
100%.
And so just go ahead and practice that now. Like, even if your parents don't ask for it, say, all right, mom, let me put gas in your car, or let me pay the Netflix, or I don't know, let me pay the internet. I'm always on
Netflix, bro.
I know about that. Well, let's go to the root. Let me pay the internet.
Let's go to the root.
Something.
That's
like,
good. Yeah.
Understand that you're not entitled to anything, but you can contribute. And then I would say, really evaluate, are the boundaries that I'm trying to set, am I going to fully experience them if I'm living off on my own? Because sometimes what I've seen young adults try to do is they like to have their foot in and out. Like, you want the freedom of not being in your parents' house, but you want the safety net of being in your parents' house. And you got to make a choice to how free you really want to be.
Yeah, that's good.
And
I would assume this. A while ago I said don't assume, but I'm going to assume this. Is part of the reason why maybe you feel strained at home. Maybe your parents are like trying to set up hangouts. They want to do dinner with you every night, all that stuff. They don't know how much longer you're going to be there.
That's
right?
true.
Yeah.
And so they're just desiring literally to want to hang out with you.
Be considerate.
Because that they know that time is limited, that you might meet someone, you might move off and get married. They have no idea what city you're going to move to or what job you're going to take. And so I think they're trying to cherish those moments, right? And I would just kind of flip that onto the other side, is you cherish those moments with your parents too. Like try to see that from that perspective.
Yeah.
Because you have no idea. Like it was a scary thing for us when we decided to move to New York because we didn't know how long we were going to be there and how often we were going to see our family.
Wow.
And so just to think about those things, like it really put a lot of weight on us because at the time, Summer and I didn't have any kids, but then we thought like, man, like our first kid might be born so far away from our parents. Like those thoughts kind of came to our mind as we were processing the move, right? And so I would just say like cherish the moments with them. You've been there for 18, 19 years and you're ready to get out, right? I would imagine that you're going to move out at some point. So don't rush that process more than it needs to be. And just enjoy that time with them.
That's good. Danny, I like that you also brought up the fact that it's different for guys and girls.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even think about that as I asked the question, but it's a very big factor, I think. I know for me, I grew very frustrated, feeling like just because I'm a girl, then I can't go do this, I can't do that. When I have a brother that's allowed to be out till 2 a.m. or whatever. And so it was a little bit frustrating at times. And so from the female's perspective, for the girls that feel that like, oh, I'm like, pressured more to be here at home and not go anywhere, that might feel that way. I would say also to, like you said, like consider where our parents are at, like really think about how they might feel, because that was something I didn't do. Like I just felt like it was
stifling,
unfair. Yeah. Like it's not fair. It's not fair.
And it ain't.
And it's not fair. Yeah. But it's also the reality that you have loving parents. If they're trying to protect you from the things that maybe I didn't understand, that they could see.
I can't eat from that tree. It's not fair.
Yeah, yeah.
It's yeah.
Sure.
So
sure.
But from a female perspective, like I would encourage anyone to honor your parents and their heart and what they're trying to do, to put yourself in their shoes, but also think about whether or not they are believers when you're starting conversations with them, because you might feel like, in the case that you feel called to move out or to move to another city or to go somewhere else for a job, while you're currently living at home, how those conversations might go, to consider, well, they might not understand completely where God is wanting me to go.
They probably don't. Yeah.
What God is wanting me to do. And then to ask to be prayed up before those conversations happen too. But to lean more into God's voice.
And I feel like we're talking a lot about some healthier family context,
right, for sure.
But there's some people that have some real unhealthy family dynamics, real unhealthy family context, and that's a very delicate situation. And I would here's why Christian community is so important, because I would encourage you, if you're not part of a faith community, there may be a widower or empty nest family in your church family that you could move with, or something like God God will provide those needs in Christian community, I believe.
That's good.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think as we're talking about like glorifying God in what we do and making sure that we're not just wanting freedom for freedom's sake, you know, to do our own thing, but to keep God in mind for everything. We know that glorifying God includes our time, our talents, and our money. We've talked about money before. We've talked about glorifying God with our gifts and our talents, including our calling. We've talked about time as well, just with habits, like spiritual habits and stuff like that. But I think the last two, like money and your talents, those are a little bit easier to see because the result on working on those and glorifying God with those is very visible. Like you'll know if you're glorifying God with your money by your empty bank account, you know, like you're able to see it, and you're able to know if you're glorifying God with your talents because it's what you're doing. It's what other people are seeing. So they'll call you out too. If either you're using your gifts in a bad way or not using them at all. But how can young adults glorify God with their time in all the time that they have, like all the kinds of areas that their time is being used that maybe we don't even think about our time being used by? Like for example, I think that sometimes we only think of glorifying God with our time by the morning that we spend with him, opening up our Bible or praying throughout the day, or not being lazy, you know, waking up at a good time. But I think also we get trapped in, you know, just little situations like talking to negative people or bad people or toxic people, and spending a lot of our time trying to, you know, create peace in situations that don't offer peace, or, you know, spending a lot of our time entertaining conflict, entertaining drama in friend groups without touching gossip, but just kind of, you know, like initiating conflict to start, or spending our time, a lot of time in the mirror. It's not wrong to look your best, like Pastor Nick says, you know, you should look good to feel good, to be good, but not for the goal of impressing others or to make somebody stumble. But how can a young adult use that kind of time to glorify God and to really act like an adult with their time?
That's good. I mean, this is something that we hit on really often. I know we're all really passionate about it, and you recently just brought up, but it's like, how much time are you spending with your Christian community, is a question I would present. And it might look like a lot, right? And you might do small groups already, Bible studies, all that stuff. And so that might be something that you already feel very comfortable with, that you already feel secure about, that you have a solid Christian community around you. But then the next challenge I would present is how much time do you then spend like on mission? So like, it's really simple for us to just gather together and be community. We can be this holy huddle, but what are we doing to then reach others, to maybe invite someone into that space, or do we have our backs to everybody else as well? So what does that time look like for you guys? Is it just hanging out, playing games, doing whatever, or is it intentionally trying to grow in your relationship with God, with one another? And then serving the church. You know, a lot of our young adults serve in our church, and they're using their time and their talents to help grow the church. One thing I would try to suggest is how are you maybe trying to find like more, like not just serving at every single spot possible, but looking at more like specifics of how you're serving within the calling that maybe God has for you. And so looking at what that might look like. And then, I mean, I'm going to say this to young adults, but this is just like me personally. One thing that I would love to work on myself is just media time. Like how am I honoring God with what I'm consuming? And I think, you know, we can easily go on a binge tangent, and 3 hours later we're like, where did all the time go? Like I started this at 6:30 and it's like almost 10 o'clock. And then I complain about myself that I'm not a good reader at night. Well, it's like, well, I just spent 3 hours on Netflix. Like that's why I'm not blind. That's why
3 hours.
I ain't telling you what I'd be watching. But like how
I was watching Love Is Blind.
I hadn't seen it yet. But how are we honoring God with that? Like with the things that we're consuming, I think is huge. That will just help with the formation and growth of our calling. So it's like we wrestle with God. What do you want me to do in my life? But then we're spending so much time consuming.
Yeah. I think time, is one of those things, like sometimes we feel like if all our time isn't filled, then we aren't.
That's so good.
Glorifying God. But, you talked about it, eating dinner with your parents or something like that. Like that's God glorifying time.
Yeah, that's good.
Your time studying for that test you got, or that's God glorifying time. Like that is. That you becoming an expert in your field, the 10,000 hours or whatever you push, like that's God glorifying. It is, like,
Yeah, and I would say like I don't think young adults have as much time as probably we think that they do, because they're just mad busy with school, work, and all that stuff.
And that's glorifying God.
Right. Yeah.
I remember a time in college where it felt like I was burning the wick at both ends, and that's not healthy.
Right.
But I also remember, like, even in that time, going to church, serving the church, and that time spent doing what I thought was the right thing, even though it wasn't a healthy time. One of the things I noticed, and I remember from that time, is God clearly speaking to me, telling me, hey, something need to change. So, but I'm like, you know what? God used that time and glorified himself, because even though I was in an unhealthy season, still walking with him, he spoke to me still. Like, there was still a connection. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to fill your time to glorify God all the time. Like, but even if you feel like you're grinding and it's, every block on your calendar got something in it. Well, honor God with that. Yeah. Glorify God with that. Yeah. If you got to study for 7 classes, you glorifying God with that.
Yeah.
Because we know you got to get your degree. We know you got to work to eat. We know glorify God with it.
And I feel like one of the reasons why we feel like we have to just like pack our time with stuff is just the FOMO. It's the fear of missing out, right? Yeah. And I feel like we always feel like we have to say yes to every single thing that comes our way, because we don't want to miss out on that opportunity or miss out on that community moment, which is community is healthy, community is good. But I love that what you said. And I'm big right now in trying to study more on rest and all that topic with Sabbath. But it's like you don't have to fill every time slot. Like that's a challenge to me.
Yeah, I'm learning that.
Yeah, like, I love organizing my day. As soon as I wake up, I open up my calendar and I fill every time slot. Yeah, because I want to be as effective as possible.
Yeah, I'm learning that. And my wife, because I try to do rhythms. Like that's why young adults is every other week. One of the reasons we want people to miss it, but another reason is because for me, like I don't, I have a family, and it's, but I'll notice, like, if I'm not careful on those off nights, I'll put something in it.
Right.
Because I'm like, I got this time slot, but I don't have to fill every open slot. That could be God glorifying.
That's good
to do that. So,
I think another way that, well, from what you all are saying, it kind of sounds like the struggle then is not with too much like empty time, because we know like the time is being filled, and we're glorifying God with what we're doing, because we're walking in his will. But then the struggle is like in the free time, like, okay, then how am I glorifying God in my free time? Like in the time that I do have, where I'm like 5 minutes before I go to sleep or whatever. But I think another way that we need to work on glorifying God with our time is the overarching time, like of our life, like our timeline that we set, because we play the comparison game. We've talked about this before, but thinking, well, I need and I want to be here, and here, and here at this time, at this certain time or age, and that's just it's not aligned with what God wants, because we don't know. Yeah. Like we don't. I don't think we'll ever know. Like he will do this at this time, and he will send me here at this age. Like, we just won't know. So I think that a lot of that has to be surrendered. A lot of our timeline, our desires, what we want has to be surrendered to him, because he will listen.
That's a great point. Not to cut you off, but I would say make plans.
Yeah.
I don't think it's anything wrong with saying in your mind, at this point of my life, I would like to be here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair game. What's not fair game is what you said, if you don't surrender that to the Lord. Proverbs says, commit your plans to the Lord and they will be established. Mm-hmm. Well, how am I going to commit a plan to the Lord that I don't have?
Right.
So it presupposes that humans are planning. You know, the scriptures know that humans are going to want to plan, but God also knows that we need to submit those plans to him. Like I tell people all the time, like, you know, I wanted to, once I accepted my call to ministry at 19, I said, yeah, God, you know, I'll pastor later in life at like 55 after I have a career and make money and do my own thing. Well, that didn't happen. I've been doing this for a long time. You know, I always said, you know what? I want to be married by 25. I got married at 20. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just, so it's good to have those plans.
Yeah.
But I do think that's one of the things that we've got to do. Make the plans. You know, people say, don't write your plans in pen. Write your plans in pencil and give God the eraser. You know, write your plan in pen, stucco, whatever, you know, but put that plan on the altar.
Right.
You know, and know that God may change it or he might not.
Yeah. And I think that we'll know where our heart is in that of allowing, well, yeah, God can do whatever he wants. Like, I think we'll really know where our heart is when something changes and our plan is like, you know, like, oh, something got thrown in my plan that I wasn't expecting. Yeah. And our reaction to that, I think, will tell like where our hope really was. Like, was it in that thing, or was it like in God that has always the best thing for us? And a huge like factor of how our heart's affected by those things is like I said, like looking at other people's lives, like looking at other people's timelines. And I think that young adults kind of fall under, some are in the middle, but some are, you know, either you are not really looking toward the future enough to where you're just kind of going day by day, not really planning things out.
Real,
just
Nick Miller.
Yeah. New Girl, great show. Well, I shouldn't. I don't know if I should promote that on the podcast. Just edit that out.
with your sound. No,
Matt, just skip over that part. But you're just kind of floating, I think. You know, just spontaneous is your favorite word. Yeah. And when I get there, I'll get there kind of attitude. Or you are planning a lot. You're either you're going through college, you're working, but you're thinking a little too much about like everything about the future, and if I'm doing enough to be the best that I can be for my future, and kind of staying frozen and stuck there because you're so pressured to be doing everything right and to be getting everything together before you can get married, or getting everything together before you can get a promotion, or whatever that is. So how can we seek God in the middle of that? Like, how can young adults not feel so bombarded by everyone else that looks like they have it together, or how can we seek God in the middle and find not a balance? I don't even want to say a balance, but just a more joyful walk with the Lord in our plan, in our journey.
I'm gonna say this real quick thing, and then Danny take it, because I feel like I've been talking too much. But like, I feel like if you plan and you're planning and it moves you more into worry than worship, that's like the check engine light. That's an indicator. Like, Jesus does not want us to worry.
And when it comes to adulting, some of you may not know what the check engine light means. Like, you think it's like, oh, like I got some cool lights on my car. But like, that's a bad thing.
That's a bad thing. Because adulting, I have driven with my check engine light on because it was still running, and then like one day it stopped.
That Pastor Larry actually gave a good message for young adults on that one. Of he said his dad told him, like, drive as much as you want with no gas, but don't drive anywhere with no oil.
Woo!
And I was like, okay,
that'll preach.
check your engine, man. And I love what you said, like, if it drives you to worry rather than worship. And I come back to this topic just because I think this is what Jesus did. He practiced the disciplines, right? So when I think about healthy rhythms, healthy time, Jesus pulled away from the craziness of life, from ministry, from serving, from teaching, from talking, to showing people who he is, to go spend time with God the Father. And I love that he did that. But he didn't do that just for the sake of him growing with God the Father. I think he did that to bring clarity of what to do next, right? Because right after Mark 135 and you get 136 and 137, disciples are looking for him, and they're like, hey, Jesus, like, these people got to be helped too. And Jesus says, it's time to go to the next town.
Let's go.
Right. So Jesus was so welcome and open to interruptions in his life because of the fact that he was well balanced of understanding, I'm going to spend time with God the Father, and I'm going to do things I need to do here on this earth, right? To where if he's going to somebody that needs to be helped, you know, and then this woman grabs him by the cloak or whatever because she needs healing too, he's willing to stop for her, right? And so I love the fact that Jesus in his time is always open and willing for interruptions.
Yeah.
And that's something for me, like, I don't feel like I'm there yet by any means.
Right.
Like when my schedule messes up, like I start feeling like tingles, a little anxiety. I'm like, oh man, like
They're like Vecna coming up.
why do we keep referencing all these shows? And so, but it's like I started to feel like, man, we're supposed to leave by 1:30 and it's 1:32. Like, oh god, like what's wrong?
Yeah.
And so you start to feel that worry, and I just feel like a calmness will come when you allow Jesus to be the center of everything that you are, to where you might have a plan, you may not have a plan, but you're just gonna, like, what's going to happen is as you spend more time with God, every single step of the way is going to start to show what he wants you to do. And then you're going to look at yourself 10 years later and be like, I did not think I was going to be right here, right? Like you said, you want to be a pastor at 55 and all of a sudden now you're a pastor at 25. And you start thinking, like, you start seeing the faithfulness of God as you spent time with him, that will allow for that balance of just being willing for those interruptions.
And part of adulting is about adjustments.
Yeah.
Part of adulting is about adjustment. So at no point in a healthy adult's life are we ever going to be able to just put it on autopilot. The minute you get married, you're going to have to make adjustments. The minute you start a new job, you're going to have to make adjustments. The minute you get a promotion, you're going to have to make adjustments. The minute you have kids, you're going to have to make adjustments.
Wild adjustments.
The minute your lease is up and you got to move to another side of town, you're going to have to make it. Like, that comes with the adulting life adjustments. You know, so, yeah.
And this should be encouraging for I mean, anybody that's an adult that is feeling that struggle, because... Let
me throw one more thing in there. Because, you know, we're talking about adulting a little bit like in a general sense, like how you go with time. But it's like, if you have questions about adulting things, check engine light, tire pressure light, like just little things that you probably should know that maybe we don't know.
And YouTube University is very helpful.
YouTube University is great. But even like you talked about, like, all right, I got to go sign a lease for the first time.
Yeah, talk to somebody.
Like, am I getting into the right situation or am I getting like gypped? Like find a trusted person before you make a wild decision.
Yes.
And just ask them, like, hey, like, I have this opportunity. There's an apartment. There's a home I'm going to buy. Like we just recently got into our first home back in September, and it was a scary thing because one, you're spending all your money. Like, you got nothing left.
And you signing your life on that
and you're signing your life away for the next 30 years of paying this mortgage. And so it's very scary. And so what I did was I founded trusted people, like, hey, like I just need you to give it to me straight. Like, if there's a little fee that y'all don't tell nobody about, tell me about that little fee.
Yeah.
So, because we need to make sure we can do this. And those people, man, they did an awesome job. And so, I mean, us here, but other people, other pastors that you might know who have life experiences, ask them for help. Like, don't think like you cannot do that. That's part of being the church as well. Not just spiritual things, but practical things of this world. So.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, we learned just from what we've shared already, like, you all should know that we don't have it all together either.
Absolutely not.
Like, we're still figuring it out. And we always will be. Like, we're always going to end up in a different season. But to close out, I want to share this, that I had a conversation. Actually, she helped me a lot with this topic, just because I realized we were in different seasons. But one of our young adults, I was just asking her questions about, adulting, like what life looks like for her. She's already been living outside of her parents' house, like, for a while now. But she's not married, she's single. So, like, we're kind of sharing different life experiences with each other. But what really inspired me about what she was sharing with me is that she is so just what's the word? Engulfed in seeking God, that almost, like, yes, we have struggles. Like, the struggle is real.
Yeah.
And adulting sucks. Like, Danny told me that yesterday. Yes, it sucks. And I'm trying to,
that way.
The thing of our podcast today is like, oh, it doesn't have to suck, like, we're trying to give encouraging and positive tips here, but it is hard. But through the struggles, like, almost everything she said was just like, but I mean, I'm seeking God, and that's what I'm worried about. I'm not going to waste my time, like, talking to people that I can see red flags with, like, or trying to get in a relationship that, yeah, they're seeking God, but it's just not, we're unequally yoked, or, I'm not going to waste my time on, like, really thinking about things that I can't control, like things that just happen, that car issues, and family issues, things that come up that you have to step up and be an adult, in certain situations. But the fact that she was just so still hopeful, because I'm seeking God, like, I'm in his will, and I can make this decision or this decision. But if I'm still, like, walking in his will, if I'm still reading his word, like, consistently, and I feel confident that the Spirit is with me, I think God's going to be with me either way, because the decision, of course, if it's, like, not drastic, like, right, if it's not sin, right. But that was just really encouraging for me to hear. And I hope that anybody listening that is really feeling the dauntingness of adulting, seek God in all that you do. Like, that is our hope and our prayer through each one of these episodes, that maybe we'll bring up some really heavy, tough topics, but come to the church and ask us how to buy groceries. Like, come to the church and ask us how to budget. Like, I don't know how to do that, but, come and ask these guys, but like, it's not, life is just not always about, like, what's the world saying about this? But life is also, like, the little things that we don't have to struggle with alone. That's my whole thing is don't be alone. You don't have to struggle alone. Don't feel like you have stupid questions. Like, that's good. We all have stupid questions, so I hope this was a good time for you all, for everybody listening or watching. Watch us on YouTube too. But adulting is hard. It doesn't have to be terrible, because we have each other.
Ask God for wisdom.
It's scary. Let us help you.
Yeah. So.
And also I'll say this. Someone is farther along the way than you are, so ask them for help, but you also are farther along the way than someone else, so don't think that you can't help somebody else.
Ooh, that's a good point.
If you're like 22, 23, you got an 18-year-old coming to young adults, and they're going into a stage that you have just walked out of, like, be willing to help them as well. And so let's just
share this episode, like, share it with somebody. If it doesn't help you, it'll help somebody else. And if it does help you, then all the more reason to share it. Go binge our other episodes, and
not Netflix.
We'll see y'all soon.
Yes.
Love you guys.
Love y'all.
Deuces.